Meta wants you to think Llama 4 is a gift. It is not. On April 5th, Meta dropped Llama 4's Scout, Maverick, and previewed Behemoth, their biggest model family ever. The press ran the same headline everywhere. Open source wins again. Safety scores through the roof. Everyone clapped. Nobody read the fine print. And that is exactly how moats get built. Meta is not your friend. Meta is a trillion-dollar advertising company that appears to be using safety benchmarks as a velvet rope. Let me explain. When Llama 4 launched, Meta made a big deal about passing internal red team evaluations and topping public safety leaderboards. They published a 40-page responsible use guide. They updated their acceptable use policy with new restrictions on how developers can deploy the weights. On the surface, this looks like corporate responsibility. In my analysis, it looks like a company writing the rules of a game only it can afford to play. Here is the proof, and it comes in 3 parts. First, inference cost as a filter. Llama 4 Behemoth is a mixture of experts' architecture reportedly exceeding 2 trillion parameters. Running inference on that model at production scale requires GPU clusters that cost tens of millions of dollars annually. Meta can subsidize that cost because Llama is not their product. Ads are their product. Llama is the distribution channel. Smaller labs like Mistral or Stability cannot absorb that cost. So when Meta sets the safety standard at a model size only hyperscalers can serve, they are not raising the bar. They are removing the ladder. Second, the fine-tuning trap. Meta published their safety fine-tuning pipeline for Llama 4, including reinforcement learning from human feedback stages and constitutional AA-style filtering. Replicating that pipeline, according to estimates from independent researchers, requires roughly 5,000 100 hours of compute just for the alignment pass. That is not open source. That is open weights with a closed wallet. You can download the model. You cannot afford to make it safe by Meta's own published standards, which means if regulators adopt Meta's benchmarks as the baseline. And the evidence suggests Meta is actively lobbying for exactly that outcome in both the EU AI Act implementation and the latest NTIA consultation. Then every competitor either pays Meta-level costs to comply or ships a model that looks unsafe by comparison. Third, the licensing squeeze. The updated Llama 4 community license agreement added new restrictions in April 2025. If your product has more than 700 million monthly active users, you need a special license from Meta. That number is not random. It targets exactly one tier of company, the ones big enough to threaten Meta but not big enough to train their own frontier model from scratch. Apple, Samsung, smaller cloud providers. They get the weights but not the freedom. If this is the kind of analysis you are not hearing anywhere else, subscribe. Because this channel exists to say what the partnership announcements leave out, and we are just getting started. Now, here is the strongest counterargument. Some people will say Meta is genuinely advancing safety, and that open-weight models with strong safety fine-tuning are objectively better for the ecosystem than closed APIs from OpenAI or Anthropic. And that is partially true. Llama 4 Scout at 17 billion active parameters is remarkably capable and genuinely useful for developers who could never afford a GPT-4 API bill. I do not deny that real engineers benefit, but good side effects do not disprove bad incentives. You can hand out free samples and still be building a monopoly. The question is not whether Llama 4 is useful. It is whether Meta is constructing a system where safety compliance becomes so expensive that only Meta-approved infrastructure can meet the bar. In my analysis, the pattern is clear. Release the weights for free. Publish safety standards so demanding they require massive compute to replicate. Lobby regulators to codify those standards. Wait for competitors to drown. This is not safety. This is strategy wearing safety's uniform. So here is my question for you, and I need an honest answer. Is Meta advancing AI safety for the world, or is Meta defining AI safety so that Meta always wins? Pick a side.